Weller. Yoder.
Here.
I have a quorum. Can I have a motion for approval of the agenda, please? You've seen it. Made. Second by Yoder. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes.
What?
Read it from your bench.
Okay. All right.
Motion,
10-4.
Mr. Heath. Second by Yoder. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Business to come before the committee. Mr. Baker's up. Probation quarterly report.
That you? Oh, no.
That's me. Yeah, no, not yet.
If there's anything you're talking about that should be recorded, let Linda know.
Let me know.
Yeah, ours is good. It's, there's you want to watch, but,
Okay.
no problems. Things are going well. Workload's staying pretty consistent. We, are still becoming a little more involved at the bond stage when people are arrested, when they're trying to decide what the appropriate bond will be. We're doing a few more of those kind of investigations, but, in general, things are pretty consistent. We've just started working with IHR to get them involved in that process. They're gonna be doing an actual assessment that'll give the judges a score of the person, low, medium, high, of what their actual risk is, supposedly to get arrested again and stuff, so. Kind of something happening statewide that everyone is working on, I think, so. Budgeting wise, we're right on target with 50% of the year done. We're at 46%, and it's actually a little better than that. I bought ahead in a couple line items, I believe, but reimbursement, the state has paid us roughly 40% of what they promised, which is pretty typical, so hopefully the money will show eventually. That's kind of what we run into with them. Initially, I've heard a couple of different pieces of language about next year, fiscal year 19. Initially, I heard 15% cut in the allocation. What I heard yesterday was the same money as last year. So hopefully the second one is right. We are continuing, I just did reimburse the general fund for salary. We're continuing to do that out of the probation fee fund anytime they don't fully fund us, which they've not done recently, and we cover all of about 5 of our line items and portions of another 5 of our line items out of the fund, so that's something we'll be able to continue to do. We've had, our drug court, of course, has been accredited. That's been out there in the papers talked about. We've got 1 client in and a few more in the pipeline, I believe. We are part of the Judicial Circuit's Veterans Court program. There's a circuit-wide program, all 5 counties. We've got 1 individual in that, but we are working to develop our own. Since we have a drug court, it's not as difficult to have our own Veterans Court. It's kind of an offshoot of that, just because the logistics of sending a guy to Bloomington and our staff being down there and traveling back and forth and stuff is difficult, especially when you have 1 person in a program at any given time. But that's one of those things that the legislature mandated everyone to have without a lot of consideration if you had a need for or how you get her done, so it's working okay. Like I said, I'm sending a staff member every Tuesday. Basically about 1/3 of their day on Tuesdays is spent in Bloomington with this 1 client by the time you calculate all the transportation and stuff involved. The committee might recall our budget this year contemplated restoring the supervisor spot in the department. I am interviewing for that right now. I had 2 internal candidates for it, both good choices. I'll have it picked literally by Friday, and we'll have that position back in place. That's not an add-on. We had converted that to an officer, so now we'll flip it back. It'll be more administrative in nature, so I'll have a second level of management outside the union for starters, to assist me with some stuff. But in general, things are going well. There were several pieces of legislation we tracked during this most recent session that could have been a concern. None of them made it to the governor, fortunately, but there were, I've talked to you guys a couple of years now, I think, about juvenile detention hearing procedure changes. There were 3 different pieces of legislation out there again in this session that would have forced more work on weekends, possibly even open up the building on weekends. None of those made it that far, but it's an ongoing trend to talk about that. There's just a concern, I think, that we leave the kids in too long before they appear in front of a judge, which I myself don't think is true, but there's a definite group that does think that. Another notable piece of legislation that was interesting, there was actually a law that made it quite a way through the process this session that would have raised the juvenile criminal age to 21. I was kind of shocked it made it as far as it did. We'll hear about that again, I'm sure, too. There's a lot of talk now based on all the research as far as when people's brains are finished developing and stuff like that, but the repercussions of that would be all over the place and hard to predict, other than you'd have a huge shift in workload, and we generally spend a lot more resources on the juvenile clients than we do adults, so it would be a significant thing. But fortunately, 1 house passed it, the other one didn't, and it stalled out in committee in the other one, so they continue to be creative, but they didn't do anything this time around that's going to be a significant issue. So
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Big? If not, thank you. We'll move. Do we have a liquor license application now?
We do have a liquor license application, and this one has not yet been reviewed by the state's attorney, just because he's been out of the office for about a week, but he is scheduled to be back tomorrow. So we're hoping that the committee will approve this pending final state's attorney review and approval. But this is for a tavern that will be located in Manville on the river. They're naming it the Dan Tavern. It's located on 600 East Road. And it's for both a Class A and Class B, so liquor, wines, bottled, and draft beer.
So liquor by the drink. And so what's the big deal about, since he didn't, I don't know if have we ever approved one without his review?
We just won't issue the liquor license until it's been 100%
We gotta check out who
And it should be done by the time it goes to the board
the
meeting.
jumpers are that are running.
So, yes, we
It's
have
down by the
The
river.
Dan Tavern?
the Dan Tavern.
Down by the, you know.
DAN.
Yes, I'm sure.
It is a tavern.
Checked in with
Yeah, I had to check into that, first time hearing about it.
Yeah, we need to have some of our boys in.
Okay, who's the
Tan or
applicant?
whatever.
Lee Semper,
Lee, Lee, well, my word.
he has
You know
two other
Lee?
businesses
Know
in
your
Streeter.
Dutco?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a
Former police officer, so.
video legit and a restaurant in the street. Lee's a retired street cop,
Yeah.
or I should say police officer.
He
So
used-
he owns, and he owns the Dan Tavern?
He must, I know
Yes.
it's the first,
He is the owner.
You guys know him at all?
yeah, he doesn't tolerate any baloney.
He's also run the Daly's Cozy Corner and Daly's Fine Foods.
Daly's, yeah.
Daly's.
And he's got video games and he's an okay guy. Not that I
sure.
I care for the beer.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Mays and Mr. Yoder, all those in favor? Wait, Yoder wants to get in on this. Sure. There's a liquor license application by retired street police officer Lee Sember called the Manville Tavern.
No, it's not called the Manville Tavern.
Manville Dam Tavern.
It's the Dan Tavern.
So we had the,
Near the Manville Dam.
yeah.
Is there one there?
And it hasn't been reviewed with the state's attorney, but we're gonna vote pending the review. Okay.
Sounds good.
All those favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Monthly department report. Thank you, Earl, for bringing that in. It's self-explanatory, you weren't involved with it. Yeah. Any questions on it?
Is what it is, I guess.
A lot of numbers.
Numbers going up, going down, staying the same?
You know, we're starting to get a little busy, picking up.
Yeah, summertime,
Especially these guys, the drug guys they've been swamped here lately. Jeff can give a little report on that. Otherwise, as far as we go, everything's been pretty.
You know, I just wondered.
Yeah,
If we have certain problems.
based on certain scenarios and
Yeah, I didn't know if we did or not.
without, I could probably do some research. maybe
No,
try to find
I just thought you might have.
Yeah, I don't really have. You
That's
got a
fine.
good answer for?
I think the drug problem is bad, and I think some of it comes from Chicago, and we're sort of a middle area for Bloomington and Peoria and Champaign. We're kind of in the middle of a triangle, so it's busy here, I think, and we're Pontiac short a guy, so they can't put a guy in the drug unit, and Fairbury doesn't have a guy to go in the unit. I think, you know, if all the teams were up and running in each town, I think it'd make a pretty big difference, because I, for instance, know a lot about the county, and probably not as much as maybe about Fairbury as what a Fairbury drug officer might know. I mean, he would know every single person. So,
Do you, continuing with that, do you attend any of their board meetings and express your concern?
they have a chiefs meeting with the upper management, And I've been there several times, and it really just boils down to money and manpower. And Pontiac was actually at full strength as of, I think, maybe a month ago, and now I just found out yesterday one of their officers is leaving, so. And they don't have any lateral transfers, so it'll have to be a new hire, which could be, you know, six months probably.
Okay.
Or more, but, yeah, I think if it was up to them, they would love to give us somebody. It's just a matter of manpower and money, and we
Cash.
just, we can't afford it, and I know, we went through some issues before where the county was paying for an officer to be in the unit, and that caused a bunch of problems and fights and what have you, so I don't see us going back that direction. But, yeah, it would be great to have, you know, 2 or 3 more guys, fighting the drug problem, but we work with what we have. I mean,
I understand.
you know,
I understand. Thanks.
yeah.
How is criminal damage to state property different than criminal damage to property?
State property would be like, if you kick the window out of a squad car, or, spray painting signs, state city. It's all state
Destroy
property.
the camera in the jail.
Is it a bigger penalty than?
Yeah,
Well, that wouldn't be state
it's a
property.
felony.
That would be-
I mean,
that
every
would be
single
state
criminal
property.
damage.
That's 'cause that's the same.
They run into stuff to jail where they knock the sprinklers off, and that's state's property, so they get charged with a felony. You know, sometimes, you know, like a keyed squad car is a felony, but if you key somebody else's car and it's not enough damage, it would be a misdemeanor. So, it's the state likes their property.
Well, keying my car is just important to me as keying a
Absolutely.
squad car is to you.
I totally agree.
They'll all make.
I've had both keyed, my car and my work car.
I want as big a penalty as you
Yeah,
got.
they both feel
I
bad.
have too.
Okay, can we move on now to the Cook County Federal Report?
Central housing was 40,700 this month. The pay for transports for Central was 5,000, and the mileage was 2,209 and 98 cents. For Northern, housing was $78,045. Officers' pay for transports was $15,180. Mileage reimbursement was $3,192.76. Cook County, this was an approximate number because we didn't have them actually calculated out yet, it's about $31,000. And that's pretty close. So that's a total of $149,745 for housing. This month, $20,180 for transport pay, and $5,402.74 for mileage. So for a grand total of $175,327.74.
Could you repeat that again, the grand total?
$175,327.74. So currently, this morning, we had 76 feds, 20 Cook County out of 96 out of county total. And if you see, that's pretty heavy on the fed side, and that's by design. And we only had 39 county detainees at 135 total.
When does that new
contract get easy for? Should be at the beginning of this month, so, there's a few things we gotta get in place, but it should be kicking in anytime.
We're gonna be able to keep those numbers up there like that.
Yeah.
Good.
So, and we got them high, they're high on purpose, because we're trying to build as much fish, you know, we projected for 70 out of county, and we're keeping them, we like to keep those as high as we can for as long as we can, so if there is a little fluctuation for some reason, we've already built a cushion in there, so that's by design. But I mean, we've got our numbers solid with just the vets. Matter of fact, Cook County called us and said that they're cutting their numbers down because their board and administration wanted them to cut their numbers down across the board, but they said, we're not changing yours because we want to keep your feds vet. Because we told them, we just straight up told them, said, well, you can cut your numbers if you want to, but that means we're gonna fill them with feds and you won't get them back. So they said, well, we'll just keep 20 there, and that way we know we have 20 beds. Because once we fill them with feds, I mean, really, seriously, we can't, we're not gonna kick feds out to let you in.
No. They pay good.
Yeah.
Who else in Cook County using? They still got some over at Kankakee?
No.
No?
But they're
He's
going
ice,
where-
That's
where is
probably
it?
ice.
There's several other places, but they're pulling them out basically every place else for us right at the moment, so. Because that'll change.
They gotta put them somewhere, they can't just.
Right, well, they have enough room right at the moment, but
It's summertime.
they won't.
They won't.
So that will change. But that just shows that they appreciate what we've done and how we do things. And we weren't threatening them, we just said, look,
Well, yeah.
if you pull them, we're gonna fill those beds, so we just wanna let you know. We're not offended either way, but we're gonna fill the beds, so, don't take them and then call us back and say you need them, because they won't be there.
Do you have any staffing problems, or are you about?
No, we're right where we should be. We had some leave, but we had to fill 3, so we did. We had them lined up, and they seem to be really good hires, so.
Are we having any trouble getting applicants?
We're always looking for applicants, but not really. There's a steady flow, and it really appears that it has had effect on our turnover. Our turnover's a lot slower than it was. So I think some of the adjustments that we made with the contract this last time around is going to be significant enough that that's going to slow down and be very manageable now. It was a concern there for a while, obviously.
When they leave, are they going to the state?
Sometimes, but that's slowed down. We got a lot closer to the state. If somebody's looking for upward, we've got 2 things. If somebody's looking for upward mobility, they may, that's a reason to go to the state. I mean, because our upward mobility is going to be slow, it's obvious. Now we lose more towards law enforcement just because they have a dream of being on the road. And so we lose more there now at this particular time, because we've gotten a lot closer to them to pay, and we get every other weekend off. You're not gonna get that at the state. So we make sure they understand that before they leave. If they want upward mobility, good. But we've changed that. And the other thing is the younger generation has a tendency to just think that change is good. The last one we lost went to be a probation officer in another county just because he wanted change. I mean, and that's kind of a trend. If you look at any studies of the younger generations, that's just part of their generation. So.
Yeah, that's okay. You're young enough to try different things.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? If not, let's move to animal control report. Hardiman's not here, right?
No.
Okay, we have the information, thank you. Proactive report, Sergeant Hamilton.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion on that? To approve it, Mr. Weller, a second by? Sure. Okay, John Yoder, all those in favor to approve the holiday calendar for next year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have a raffle license application from Friends of Falcons, Flanagan, Illinois, and that's been all checked out.
Yep.
So we need a motion there to approve a raffle for them, Class B license. Mr. Mays, second by Mr. Heath. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. If you've had a chance to review and approve the bills, and we're going around there, Kathy's here with us, she's still looking, so.
That's okay, go ahead.
Okay, okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Yoder, second. Mr. Heath. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public comment, Mr. Seigel's with us tonight.
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay. Well, thank you all for attending, and entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Mays, second by Yoder. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.